Good morning. It's Dr. Greg Emerson from the Treat the Cause podcast and YouTube channel. If you want to find out about how to use coconuts like traditional populations have for thousands of years, keep watching. We're about to get started. Hi, this is Dr. Greg Emerson. I am here with Kaizi and Hannah from Kaizi's Traditional Organic Coconut Oil Company. And we're going to get this podcast and video done quickly because we had to turn off the fans and we're up north of Cairns and it's very hot. Ideal country for collecting and growing coconuts, but tough environment for recording sometimes. So I'm going to talk for a couple of minutes about coconuts and particularly the controversy around coconut oil, and then we're going to talk to Kaizi and Hannah about why there might be a controversy and why there doesn't need to be a controversy, because when we look at how traditional populations have always used coconuts, it's much different than taking a tablespoon of coconut oil out of a plastic bottle. So first of all, I want to talk about some of the research on coconut and why it's incredibly difficult to research, because what we know now with all our work on the circadian diet and the circadian rhythm and the way that food interacts with mitochondria, we also, and the fact that Weston A. Price discovered this in the 1920s when he looked at all the long-lived, incredibly healthy traditional populations, he found that the key things were that the food that they was eating was local and it was seasonal and it was eaten in big groups of people who you loved. And we've moved a long way away from that. And also we have to recognize that a lot of the coconut oil research is not done under those clinical parameters. So when we talk about seasonal foods, that's involved in how that food interacts with your mitochondria. And we know that the results that you're going to get from eating a coconut in Cairns during the season when they're available is very different to the results that you're going to get if you're living in Edmonton in Canada during winter where coconuts grow, and the results that you're going to get from eating coconut in that environment. The environment that you eat the food and that food is available in is critical. So when living in the Pacific Islands, you're not going to have many cows on a Pacific island, but you're going to have a lot of coconuts. Coconuts then become an amazing food for you, but less so butter, because it's not a traditional food because they don't have cows. Whereas you're living in Canada, I lived in Canada for a couple of years, there's a lot of cows. Europe has a lot of cows. Butter is a great source of essential fats in Europe and North America, whereas coconuts might not be. Whereas in the Pacific Islands, coconuts are a much better food source than butter. So if you're going to do research, you don't want to do research on people living in Canada consuming coconuts. It is not how food should be consumed, and it's not going to give you appropriate resources. You have to do your research on people in the Pacific Islands and how they use coconuts traditionally. We also know too that doing research on coconuts should be done on people who are chopping coconuts down out of a tree or collecting them from the ground, opening them up and consuming them. Eating a coconut like that is very, very different to eating a coconut out of a can which has been processed. Most of the research has been done on processed coconut products, but we do know if you look at Pacific Islanders and their lipid profiles and their health when they're consuming traditional foods in their traditional land is very different to what happens if they move to Auckland in New Zealand and start consuming those traditional foods, but they're getting out of a can. So if we're going to do research, we need to do research on the food as it should be eaten and the way it's been traditionally eaten, because there is an ancient wisdom in how we ate and cooked and utilized these foods, and that traditional wisdom is being lost, which is one of the reasons that I've come here to talk to Kaizi about some of this ancient wisdom that he still possesses that we're losing, and that these guys need to have recognition for that long-held traditional knowledge. So the first point I wanted to make is if you're going to use coconuts, use it seasonally, use it locally. If coconuts do not grow in your environment, then that is not a good food for you. You need to find other sources of those fats which are good for us. So butter would be a good alternative in more temperate climates. The second thing I want to talk to you about was heart disease and fat. There was a study out now that everybody understands that heart disease is actually a disease of the mitochondria of the endothelium. The mitochondria, the energy source of the cell, and the endothelium is the lining of the cells. That's where heart disease comes from. Heart disease comes from a mitochondrial disorder causing inflammation. It has a lot less to do with fat consumption than we ever thought. So a lot of the data on heart disease has been confused about fats because it's not actually particularly the cause of heart disease. Everybody accepts now that heart disease is caused by inflammation of the vascular system. The third point I wanted to make is that there's this great focus on LDL cholesterol on a blood test. LDL is said to be the bad fat, but we now know that there are actually various subtypes of LDL. LDL actually comes in four different subtypes, depending on the size. There are big, medium, small, and very small. And we now know that the big and the medium size are actually good for your arteries, and the small and the very small might be inflammatory. So when we just measure LDL as a single agent, we don't know if that LDL is the good LDL or the bad LDL. So coconuts, which we know increase your HDL, which is the good cholesterol, also increase the LDL, but almost certainly that's going to be the good LDL. You can be riding your bike around Fiji, consuming lots of avocados, lots of coconuts, and you'll have very high LDL, but it will be the good LDL. So doing research and throwing LDL all into one bucket of badness is not appropriate. We need to do the subtypes of the LDL. And the fourth thing I want to talk about, which is very topical at the moment, is the antimicrobial benefits of coconut. And there's a big movement towards oil pulling, and the main benefit, in my opinion, of the oil pulling is the antimicrobial effects in the mouth, because we now know a lot of the periodontal disease, the infections in our gums, is getting into our bloodstream and causing inflammation in our arteries. So coconut oil pulling is not so much about removing toxins from the body, but controlling the pathogenic infections in our gums. The other thing, particularly the antimicrobial perspective of coconuts, is the fact that they're very high in lauric acid, and lauric acid in the body gets converted to monolaurin, and monolaurin is antifungal, antiparasitic, and antiviral. So particularly in times now when we're worried about viral infections, that perhaps coconuts and the monolaurin that they contain, or the lauric acid they contain, are going to be something that we should be looking at and including in our health regime, as long as we live in a climate and a country where coconuts are seasonal. Right, okay, that's all I really want to say about coconuts. Now I want to talk to Kaizi and Hannah about the traditional use of coconut, because I learnt an enormous amount. I thought I knew a lot about coconuts, found that I knew hardly anything about how they should be utilised. And I wanted to talk to Kaizi about how his people from the Torres Strait Island and the Pacific Islands and Papua New Guinea, where I started my medical career up in the highlands of Papua New Guinea. It's when I started my love affair with coconuts. Have traditionally used it, because I was completely confused. So one of the things I want to talk to you about is how the food that you use coconut for, and what you explained to me, and if you could tell us a little bit about that, is that traditionally it's been coconut milk and flesh, which is the main utilization of food of the coconut. And yes, you did use coconut oil, but because there was so much work involved in making the coconut oil, it was basically used for skin and hair and used intermittently as a medicine, whereas you used the milk for cooking and daily consumption. Can you explain a little bit about how your people would traditionally use coconuts for cooking? Because I love mahi cooked in coconut milk.
Well, there's a special dish we call sop. It contains of bush potato, yam, taro, water potato, yam, kumala, sweet potato, bugle pumpkin, ibiga leaf, where we peel them and put them on banana leaf. Where we get the coconut, we grate them, put the coconut there in a jar, put a little bit of hot water, squeeze the milk. Mix the hot water with the flesh. You got your saucepan there with your banana leaf, you squeeze them all in there. Close the banana leaf and simmer them. You cook with the milk, not full heat, moderate heat. You have to be moderate heat because the vegetable you put on there, like I say, yam, taro, ibiga leaf, kumala, and a pumpkin. They're the ones that make the sop. The kumala will be sweet, the coconut will be sweet. That will make everything sweet, the kumala and the coconut milk. That's the special dish for that. Since flour came into my people's life, we turn it around. We used to make a thing called isimur. We make out of cassava, and pokololo another thing we call pokololo. We make out of sweet potato, but we use the milk. There's a certain way we do it when we grate the isimur. We do it with the cassava. We grate it, take all the starch out. Leave it there. Settle. The starch will drop, the water will float. Leave it for an hour or so, you chuck that water away, you grab the starch, and then you knead it. You bake it, leave it there, put it in the oven. Before days we put it under the ground, but you put it in the oven. You will see something there, the color will come brown a little bit, not too brown. And then you take it out of the oven, you get the milk, you rub it on top, and you put it back in for the last 10 minutes, then you bring it out. So we use coconut milk for that, similar to the sweet potato. And also we make the coconut damper with the milk. So what we worked out, and we already knew how to make the pokololo and the isimur, but when the flour come into the scene, so we made coconut damper. And when the rice came into the scene, we made coconut rice with the milk.
So of course you're still getting coconut oil when you consume the milk, because the milk contains the oil, which you eventually extract. So if you're having coconut milk, you're still getting the benefit of consuming some coconut oil, aren't you?
The pure,
Yes.
the milk, that which is very healthy for our people.
So you used all of the coconut, didn't you? You were telling me that you used the green outer husk that's put back in, you put that back in the soil as a fertilizer. You burn the brown husk and you use that as fertilizer to put back in the soil. And then you would drink the water.
First of all, the tree, our tree, the coconut tree, when they give you fruit, it's green. They small, they come big. Knock the green one down, we feed all the babies. Water, put water in their mouth. From susu. Breast milk is the same as the coconut. Coconut milk and mother's milk, same milk. But sometimes all mothers put coconut milk in their mouth. Yes, that's the green coconut. When the kids come up to maybe one, when they're teething, they feed the kids baby jelly. Just enough hard coconut to give them, not to choke, but when they bite it, they split the gum. It's soft. Yeah, that's another way we use coconut. When young babies teething, they give them coconut to bite, so it split, the teeth come out. Yeah. Now, as coconut grow, before days, you're not allowed to touch the green one. It's only for kids. When the from green, it get matured now. That's the one we make the oil. Coconut oil. So you start that fruit from that tree, you start from babies, and when you dry now, you go to the elders, like to the older people, sorry. You start feed the old people. For all sorts of cooking, like I mentioned before. When mothers got no milk, they crush that coconut and they squeeze that pure milk. They put them inside a baby clamshell, squeeze them in there, then they feed them baby. When mothers run out of milk, they use that milk, that pure milk. Like I said before, and also we make coconut oil. What you see on the table here, from matured coconut. That is our medicinal tree, this one. It's second to our little flower we have on the island. They call it the hibiscus. We call them cookworm. That flower make all the women pretty. But when they're pretty, they have to smell good. If you make sweet coconut oil that smell like coconut, that's when it comes together. That's our people, the flower and the coconut oil. Yeah.
So what were some of the medicinal, how would you use coconut oil medicinally, traditionally? What sort of, you were telling me that you put in ears sometimes, how else do you use it?
When we get pure coconut oil, all old ladies, when we get earaches, I've been done that before. We never been go to hospital or anything. The mother used to, we put their head on the lap and they get this oil and they warm it up a little bit, then they tip it in. You leave it in there for next day. You leave it in there for next day. They take out the oil, it will come out by himself. Only get all the rag, it will come out. What happened in the wax? When you warm the oil, you melt the wax. And if you got water in there, the water, the oil will drag him out with the oil.
And what about using the coconut oil internally? When would you use that?
When we belly sore, we use that one. 1 spoon every 7 days, not every day. Like on a Sunday, you take a spoon, tablespoon, wait. But you're not gonna know yourself. Your body will tell you. You're thinking, your body will tell you. When you go for belly run, when you belly run, that means you gotta go to the toilet. So anyway, you'll know, your system will tell you. Maybe a little bit more because there's something not right. The next 7 days you do the same thing, then it's clear. You're gonna know it's clear, yeah. Also, we use coconut oil for massage. But what you see here, this one here, traditional medicine, this is the one before deep heat come into our lives. Or any Western medicine, this is the one. Arthritis, muscle pain. I do a lot of jobs, lot of work with this one. My back sore, my neck sore, everything sore. But when I use this blend, but we call this ubar, is another word for it is noni, but that's a Tahitian language. Every indigenous people has a language to their medicine. Coconut oil has a purpose. As you can see, ubar, traditional medicine. All these are traditional medicine, I say, this is from the earth. The lavender, tea tree blend is from the earth. All the oils from the earth. So I support whoever's there growing lavender and tea tree to make this happen for human, as people, for cure. So coconut is not only the base, it's not only a base oil, it's a holy oil. Spirit oil belongs to us people. Spirit oil is one.
All right, what I wanted to talk to, and I'll ask Hannah this because she showed me and I ate lots of it, is that some of these coconut oils have a slight yellow tinge. and the others are clear. And the ones that we traditionally buy are clear. And so I want to talk to you guys about how your preparation method is done by traditional methods and is different to a cold pressed oil. And I want to talk to Hannah maybe. Hannah can maybe explain, because I didn't know what musu was until you opened a coconut and showed me, and I ate it, which was delicious. Because I thought if you opened up a coconut, there was just water inside. But what you explained to me is that if you leave the coconut for long enough on the ground, that water turns into musu. Which can you and which when you make oil out of the meat and the musu, you get a slight yellow coloration. Can you explain what musu is and how that helps the coconut tree?
I'll explain what the musu is, and then Dad, you can explain the difference in the oil.
Yes.
So the musu is we in English is a coconut kernel. Okay, and that is when the baby shoot is starting to grow, and it feeds off the flesh and the coconut water to give it the nutrients to create another tree. And then it penetrates the shell and then starts to grow. And so this particular plant, the coconut tree, it has a story to it, just like we have a story of how we grow from a mother into a baby and then into an adult. It's the same kind of thing. And then once it penetrates the shell and then the husk of the coconut, it finds its roots on the ground, and then it starts to grow another tree.
Right.
So over to Dad, the difference in that he makes the coconut oil with the musu.
So you were telling me that this one is slightly stronger.
Well, at times when I go gathering, I pick them up like 300 coconut. So I'm processing like 600 shells. So if you got 300 coconut, when you split them, you got 300 shells, and they're full of musu. Especially if they, like the musu, you got the kernel, like Hannah was saying. So when I process that, the oil would come out more or less yellow, more yellow than this. But how? This is without the musu. It's watercolor. This was watercolor. So what I've done with the musu, I blended with the watercolor oil. What it is, this is richer. It's more matured. This one is still in its second stage of growing, from the green jelly to the young coconut. But this is more matured. So when I blend them, this is the color you get. It's more matured oil. Yeah.
Okay, and we all like the idea of cold pressed, but you're unique, which I love, in that you're using a traditional method of coconut oil production, which I'm very grateful that you showed me, but which involves fermentation and slight heating. Can you run me through how your traditional method of coconut oil production differs to cold pressed and the possible benefits of the traditional method?
The knowledge that I do was handed down. Is what the result is there. How it's pure in its pure form, and how I blend it with the musu and the rest that comes with the noni and tea tree and lavender and even primrose oil. But I cannot say much about cold press, but I think it's a good oil too, because it's coconut, but it methods in a different way. But the way I do it is different again.
So run us through how you do it.
Well, when I grate the coconut, when I scratch it all, I put a certain amount of water inside to drain the milk out. So I do, it's like I say before, when I get like 300 coconut, that's 300 shells. When I do the musu one, I put a little bit of water inside, and then I squeeze all the milk out into a 93-liter tub, and I let it sit ferment for a few days. But you got to know the smell.
The art of coconut.
Yeah, there is a smell there that you have to take it out. Once you take it out, then you'll see your oils there. And if there's a fog underneath, you know there's water in there, so you have to use a little bit of heat to get that moisture out. If you don't get the moisture out, your oil will smell a bit, maybe it will smell a bit, a rancid smell, and it'll make it go off. But what I found with the fermentation is it kills all the microbes in there, see? Nothing lives in it. Whereas cold press, I don't know much know. So that's what I know about the healthy oil that I make. It's been handed down the way I have to stay this way. As you see, it's flawless. I mean, I've been down to Sydney when we first kicked this off. I've been down all the way down to Sydney to ask any health food shop there if they want to buy oil of me. But what I've seen down there, so many oil, that's so many like sediment underneath. I said, this is not right. It's different from wheat, you know. And I look at my oil, I do it with love and care, and really love and care, you get the best product. Not the best, but the good quality. The way you make your oil, yeah.
Handmade with love and care. Can't beat that.
Well, we have to, because the council want to have a little look on what we do. So, and we pay them money to say if it's good. So, but anyway, we have to pay a council fee, so they come and check what we do. So we, also my lady, she's done a health and hygiene course, and of all things, she's got to monitor me too, and I don't like that sometimes, but anyway, it works, so yeah. So it's very, my people make oil underneath the coconut tree. They make the I see it in my own eyes, and for like, to watch over me, and I said, okay. As long as you can keep up with the ground, it's good. So, but anyway, it's good.
Greg, I think what's beautiful about the plant itself is that it gives off this natural water that we can drink from, we can make milk from, and we can make shelter, and we can make oil. I guess with Dad's method is the fact that it has water naturally in it, so we have to try and get or take out the moisture. So through our method of slightly heating it, that's what Dad's method really does. And like he said before, taking out the rancidity of it, so that smell, that off smell that you sometimes have in oil, and just creating more of a product that holds a lot of integrity to it.
And well, like also when I'm in the marketplace or anywhere, even today, even as we sit here, if you look at oil, so oh yeah, well, that must have been done by somebody good. Well, it's there. It's Kaizi's coconut oil, yeah, and family, of course, yeah.
All right, fabulous. So in summary, local and seasonal is critical. Evidence is now showing that it's not just the food that you eat, that it's when you eat it and where you eat it. So if you live in a country which doesn't grow coconuts, there are probably better sources of fat. Fortunately, I get to live in a subtropical area, and coconuts are available year round, so that's good for me. Second take-home point was that heart disease is caused by, cardiovascular disease is caused by inflammation, and it's important to try and work out what is causing the inflammation, and that is not coconuts off a coconut tree. Research should be done knowing the different subtypes of LDL, and done on people using coconuts in a traditional way in a traditional country, and that honouring traditional knowledge, traditional use, traditional techniques of producing all of the foods from coconuts, honouring that the coconut trees for tens of thousands of years have given us not just food but shelter and soil regeneration. And I think that's the focus of this podcast, is always about using latest scientific research to validate traditional health practices and using coconut appropriately. I want to stress the word appropriately, understanding that traditional people have always used the whole coconut, not just the oil, and the oil had a specific use. So understanding and honouring that traditional knowledge and being grateful now that science is validating what we like to call phronesis, which is practical wisdom. If something's worked for 40,000 years and you just have to go to Fiji, you just have to go to Papua New Guinea or the Torres Islands and see the skin and health of those people living the traditional way, to know that this is such an amazing food. So anything else you guys want to close off with?
All I like to say is all people have to be aware of intake of food. Coconut oil is a great help. Do some research on it. What you're hearing today is true what we say. And yeah, so, and the season for coconut up in this area is not like a season. There's coconut here all the time. When you get rainy season, that's when they start to bust loose. They start to come on, lot of seeds. You maybe get 60, 70 to a tree. You know, when you get the monsoon, that's when they let it go. They grow faster. Come in August, September, that's when they all drop. But it's continuous, this fruit. It's continuous, yeah.
All right, thanks, Kaizi. Thanks, Hannah. If you've liked the video, make sure you hit the subscribe button and like the video. That helps us information to be shared. If you want to support the channel, I have my Patreon page, Dr. Greg Emerson, where I do some exclusive videos and discuss how I'm keeping myself healthy. So you're most welcome to join that. Thank you very much for watching. Thanks for your attention, and we'll see you next time.
That's all.
Oh, I saw it.